I'm Tsepo Pule, a husband of one and father of two. For years, my identity had been tied to what I do for a living until the year 2020 when everything fell apart. Hashtag COVID-19. Almost 5 years ago, I became a father for the first time, and I thought I was ready. Looking down at my son's chubby cheeks, my heart filled with pure joy and trepidation, seeing my exhausted wife on the bed after a water birth, I vowed to be the best father ever. It turns out, I wasn't entirely ready to be the best father ever. I had not prepared accordingly for the different stages in my life, career, marriage, and parenting. I have since lost my job, and therefore have chosen to be fully focused on what's important to me. I'm doing right by my vow, and I'm hoping to foster a community of fathers that share similar values. Welcome to the Timer's Playbook, a podcast series on fatherhood, proudly produced by 1730 Media. On this week's episode, we've got Mr. Zuko Masela. I've been looking forward to this guy for a long time. He's out in Cape Town, so we're going to do a recording over Zoom. Zuko is 47, 2 kids, married, and a wealth of knowledge. How are you doing, brother?
I'm very well, I'm very well. Physically, I'm just on another level, I'm very excited. I ran the 2 Oceans Half Marathon a few days ago, which seemed impossible 5 months ago.
So you you're on your deathbed 5 months ago.
Yeah.
Just remind me again what had happened.
I had COVID, and then it turned out that it created other complications. Look, I had no other underlying issues. People normally think that's the issue, but it's not. COVID for me created what they call pulmonary embolism. So I had blood clots on my lungs, and one of the clots ended up blocking the connection between the heart and the lung.
Sure.
So the day I got admitted at the hospital, my heart rate was like almost 150, which is like someone who's running like at full speed, but I was sitting down. And so basically my heart wasn't working. So when at that time when they admitted, they saw on the scan that's like, yo, dude, your heart is working one side, the other side is not working. My oxygen level was below 50. It was actually, they checked it was at 44. Normally, between me and you now, when you're sitting, our oxygen capacity is around 98% or 99. It's never really 100. But I was at 44, and they were still amazed how I can actually manage to speak. Why am I not unconscious at that stage? So it was that critical that they had to like rush me to a different room and call my wife and tell her, listen, let's touch and go with this guy. And it was that bad, because now I keep going after the whole thing. Doctors look at me like, how are you alive?
Yeah, which is a good question, right? So at that time, when this is about fatherhood, like, what are you thinking?
What I was thinking, well, it didn't click to me that I was going to die for a while. While I was in the bed, I can see them rushing. They are rushing and doing things fast and all of that. I'm just looking, I'm just watching. And they bring one oxygen and they plug me in, and they start, it's not working. They bring another one. I had like 2 oxygen masks just to help me along. But in my head, it's not clicking that I could die. And then
But what are you thinking? Like,
I'm just,
all of this is happening.
I'm just watching, okay, I can feel that I'm struggling. Okay. For one, it was hard to walk. They had to bring a wheelchair to wheel me into the emergency room. I could hardly do anything really, but I'm just looking around all the activity. I don't know. I wasn't really thinking that I'm going to die, because I thought, okay, I'm in hospital, so the doctors are here, they're going to do something. Even when they showed me on the ultra scan, the same thing they use for pregnant ladies, they showed me that, look, there's your heart. One side is not moving. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So what you guys going to do? I was somehow comfortable. Until they brought the resuscitation machines and they put it next to me.
Yeah.
And then this nurse is talking to another nurse on the other side of the bed, and they're like going through what they're going to do when I crash. I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on? What's going on? They said, no, we're preparing for you just in case now you crash, what we're going to do to revive you.
So, but you've done you've done what do you call it? Like is it emergency first aid training,
Yeah.
right? But you've helped people on the mountain and stuff. So you have an idea that okay, this is serious now when they bring this because you know what it means.
That's when I realized that shit, I'm gonna die. Then at that point, that's when it really clicked. I said, okay, where's my phone? Okay, first thing, I need to call my wife because I didn't say bye properly in the morning. And then I want to call my daughter and say, listen, I love you. And then there was no signal. Just like that. I could not call anyone. So that was the only time I realized. For some reason, at that point, there was no signal. But then they did this procedure that lasted about 3 hours. And it worked, you know. And one doctor, the way he explained, he said basically they had to poison me. The concoction they had to use was so poisonous, it could have had a effect on me that could have made me bleed internally and die. But that was the only option left. So that professor was saying, look, your situation was so critical that they had to use poison to help you. So if a doctor goes that extreme route, that means that's the last option. It's do or die situation. But after the 3 hours, yes, after the 3 hours when they were done, so I sort of came out and then the doctor sat next to me and asked me, how are you? My first answer was, I'm hungry. I was hungry. And the doctor smiled and looked at me and said, it's days like this that it's worth coming to work.
Yeah. And what meal did they bring you?
They brought me some veggies and some chicken. I just wanted food.
Anything.
Just give me a meal, something to eat. I hadn't eaten the whole day because the previous night we didn't sleep at home because I was just struggling the whole night. My temperature was going up and down. So I didn't eat anything. And this was like now when they were done with me, it was like 5 p.m.
Yeah.
When they really felt like, sure, this guy is now going to be okay. Yeah. Even though I was still very critical because at that point they still had to move me to ICU, just to keep on monitoring me. But at that point they were quite happy that, and then suddenly at that point I can call my wife.
Yeah, ne?
We had signal. But then I thought in hindsight, she was sort of saved from the trauma of knowing because the doctors were trying to tell her that, listen, your husband can die any minute now between now and...
Yeah, because you were also going to be now saying your goodbyes, right? Because that could also be you giving up in a way. So in a sense, maybe you not being able to say goodbye was like, I can't go now. I haven't said anything.
Yes. In hindsight, when you look back, that was the thing, because my mind was thinking when I left home, I struggled into the backseat of the car, the guy that was taking me to hospital. And I was so weak, I couldn't even turn my head to look at her. I wanted to turn my head, look at her, give her a kiss. I couldn't. I was so weak. I couldn't even do that. I just fell into the seat. And the guy drove away and my head was hanging down, and, So when I look back, I said, she was saved from that trauma. And probably then that also gave me just the strength to keep going because I haven't finished what I needed to do.
Cool. So, which is what we're going to get into now, ne? So it's nice. We actually started the podcast at the end. So now, so tell me then, when you woke up, right? Maybe a few days later or now when you think about it, would you say your family was sufficiently taken care of should you have passed away? And this is financially and otherwise.
Not sufficiently. I've got a funeral plan which I calculated that would cover the funeral service and still leave some money, but not sufficiently as I would like because things just keep getting more expensive by the day. They would have given them some money maybe to run for a month or two. So to me, that's not sufficient.
Okay. So then in terms of planning financially, was it something you were doing before? Or is it something you're more acutely aware of now and be like, hey, this thing actually is possible? Let me get on this.
It's something I was always aware of that I needed to do. However, when the situation happened, then I came back. I went back and I increased the whole payment out. Think about it even more now to say, listen here, wait. Actually, I would have left my family in a state to survive for a bank. That's not good enough. Because I can actually get contributions that work and then leave them in a much better state. Even if it's something that can last them for a year, that would have been better. So that's when then I became more aware of what I need to do.
Yeah.
So then I made those changes to add certain things in life.
Okay. Yeah, nothing brings you into sharp focus than the prospect of death. So,
Yo, Baba.
I'm gonna circle back to the family stuff. So you got 2 kids. And when I was looking at my notes, it's quite a big age gap, right? So the first one you had in your 20s, she's now 23. Second one in your 40s, she's 2.
Yes.
How do you feel about that? And how is that going?
The interesting thing is that I can't remember how my 23-year-old was when she was 2. So
is that what happens?
Yeah, now I'm thinking, wait a minute, how did I do this back then? Because sometimes I'm just struggling now to deal with the 2-year-old, and I'm surprised by the things she's doing and the things she's learning. And I'm like, wait, I've been through this, but I know, okay, it's over 20 years ago, but how did I forget? So it seems like I forgot how she was when she was younger. But I do remember 2 things though. That is very, very clear. Lerato, the 23-year-old one, she was very soft child. She had energy, but not as energetic. But she was very soft, and she just liked to play with. She was
calm. She was like
she was calm. She was a calm. She's a what do you call a girly person?
Okay.
She just wouldn't fight with anyone. She listened. She was an easy child. And here we are now. We've got Dominic. She has got energy for the 2 of us. And she has no point where she just sits still. And she is everywhere. So to me, those are the 2 contrasts that have stood up. But it's nice. Actually, I must confess that your podcast has helped me with a few things now.
Oh, really?
To deal with the 2-year-old. Because I had forgotten.
Yeah.
Yes,
because the majority of guys that come on, the kids are still around that age, yeah.
Yes. So I was like, oh yeah, I need to do things to distract her. When she's going, then I say, look here, there's airplanes. Then she stops whatever she was finicky about. And, so those little advices that have been coming up through the podcast, I was like, cool, bruh, cool. Thank you for reminding me about these things, so
yeah,
it's been a huge contract, but it's a nice thing to have. It's one of those things, after my brush with death, I look at things in a different way. And sometimes I look at Dominic and I'm like, thank you, Lord, to have a chance to be part of another child's life, to help another child into this life again, because it's a privilege.
Yeah, ne? No, that's true.
Yeah.
So what I was keen to find out was just the timelines, right? I think you had mentioned that around about the time you had your first kid, you had just moved from Mthatha. Is that correct? Or had you been in Cape Town for a while?
I had been in Cape Town for about 2 years. It is 2 years, and then I went to Joburg, and then I came back again to Cape Town.
Yeah.
So it was like my second stint in Cape Town. Well, I went to Joburg for like 9 months. I did some work in Midrand, stayed there, then came back again to Cape Town, and then I had Lerato.
So what were you at? Because I think you said that there's a lot that you were adjusting with, right? So moving into big cities, basically you're trying to find your place in the world, right?
Listen, it was a huge difference.
Yeah, what's happening now? You've got a kid, a new city, you're moving, Midrand, Cape Town. How are you feeling emotionally? Like, how are you sorting this thing out?
It's crazy, because in Mthatha, First of all, let me just put it something into context here.
Okay.
Where we live, we've got room around us. Houses are not on top of each other. Basically, there's a room, there's lots of space. I grew up in a space like that. If I'm going to my neighbor, I'm going to walk, a good 10, 15, even 20 meters, the space. To Cape Town, everyone is on top of each other, like literally, in a space of where my house and my neighbor's house could be. For us in Namtata, in that space, we'll have 2 families. In Cape Town, we have 10 families or even more. So that was the one thing I first had to adjust the traffic, the volume, and it was just in my head, it was like, whoa, this is a bit much, so many people. And then the culture of doing things, how people were doing things, how people were living, how people were treating each other. It was a bit much at some point for my head. Sometimes I wanted to close my ears, not to hear. Because again, when I come from where I come from, everybody's just polite to each other. And hey, there in Cape Town or Joburg, no one cares about you. People say what they want to say. They feel like they're going to swear at you, they'll swear at you. If they want to swear the next one, they don't care. I mean, for me, it was the first time I saw a guy hitting a girl. I was like, what the hell is going on? And everybody just walks. Nobody
in the
cares.
street?
It's in the street. It was the norm. It's like, okay. And I was like, then I asked the girl, because she lived across the road, and said, are you going to continue with this religion? What's going on? She says, no, he loves me. I'm like, what? What is going on here? And then I asked other people, I said, no, now and again, you need to give your girl a clap just to show her some that you hear you're the boss. I said, no, this is not it. And so that was that clash of cultures. And there was also some guys who were my age when I arrived. They were sitting literally in the street corner, doing nothing. So I asked them, guys, you're my age, so what are we doing here? Are we sitting here the whole day, every day, wait for people to come from work? We ask them for a 5 rand and all of that. We're not looking for education, because it was my early 20s. We're not looking to further our education. You're not looking for work. I said, no, there's no work. I'm like, how do you know? You don't go anywhere. You always sit here. So there was that culture. So I got up and I'm not doing this. I'm going to go get myself educated. I'm going to find work. Something's going to happen. I'm not sitting here in the street corner all the time. Remember that song of Quiet? That thing used to play in my head. It's like, no. And I could see it literally, guys are sitting in the street corner doing nothing.
So had you moved alone in like the hopes of a better life?
I didn't move for a better life. It just happened. Okay, what happened is that I had to accompany my sister to go register at Pentech or University of Technology. It's what it's called now, to be the guardian and help her sign and everything. So I had my little sports bag because I thought once she's done, she's settled in, I'm going to go back home to that. That was done, settled, and then I had no money. My parents, I called them, guys, I'm done. My sister is in. They said, just hang time. Go stay by your aunt. And when we have money, we'll send you money to go back home. And months went by. So that's how I ended up in Cape Town. So months went by. And that also became part of my challenges and the struggles that I faced, because now family were starting to get annoyed with me because I don't have money. I got nothing to contribute, So it became rough in the house because sometimes I would go days without food. Not that there wasn't food in the house. They would eat alone and not give me food.
Is this your sister's family, you're saying? Whose family?
No, it's my family, my aunt.
Oh, you're with your aunt.
It's a relative, yes.
Yeah, but it becomes a thing, right? Now what?
Yeah, and my parents, they didn't have the money to send me to buy a bus ticket to go back home. So, and I understood that, okay, they're struggling at home, and here I am stuck there.
Yeah.
Like to go for days without food is painful. And sometimes I'll sleep outside because they'll lock me out. They'll literally lock the door and I'm standing outside chatting to someone. I'm here by the door. You just hear the lock. It's like, guys, you're locking me. And then I'll sleep outside. I'll find newspapers and wrap myself
that's rough,
and sleep.
boss.
It was rough. I mean, I ended up having to make a plan to survive. So I would go and collect bottles. Find Coke bottles, beer bottles, take beer bottles to the shebeen, and then I get some money, take the bottles to the spaza, and I get some money. Then I'll buy myself something to eat. Whatever the 2 rand, 1 rand, I'll put them together. Election was as easy. Yeah. You can buy 1 egg, you can buy 3 slices of balloon. You can buy a quarter of a bread, and so to sustain myself.
How come you, unless you did, of course, how come you didn't default or fall into either crime or just young taller? Because when people are desperate, they do what they need to do to survive. Is it how you were raised, or is it something in you, or is it the church? What happened?
I believe mostly it's where I come from and how I was raised. Because from Mthatha, that life of crime that I used to see in Cape Town was new to me. In Mthatha, yes, you'll see thugs there and there and there, and Bakwana, they just carried knives. But it was not something, and they will pickpocket people. In Cape Town, it was prevalent. It was right there in your face, and there were guys running and shooting at each other like that in the street. It was also that thing that has shocked me. Like, whoa, what is this? I could have fallen into that because my older brother, at some point while I was still in Mthatha, dabbled into gangs, and he used to come home carrying a knife and all of that. I was not interested in that life. I looked at him and, what the hell are you doing? And he had a gang stuff on. And then when I was in Cape Town now, living at my aunt's place, my cousin was in and out of Portsmouth prison. He was a thug through in and out, He'd also sometimes show up with a gun on his, And at some point, I used to think that if things don't change, I am going to fall into that life. Because I remember one time walking with these guys, we went out at night, we were just walking, and one of them just pulled out a gun and just gave it to me. I was like, oh, okay, here I am with a 9mm in my hand, just walking on the streets. And one point, he pointed out to a dog, said, shoot the dog. So why? So then I thought to myself, listen, I have to do something. Otherwise, I have to pull myself out of this. It's going downhill. That song of Coolio, Gangster's Paradise, 23, never will I live to see 24. That started playing in my head. I'm like, no, I want to live longer than this. Because the guys were thugs, but they were not living long. My cousin ended up in another prison because he was in another prison too many times. So they said, nah, because he escaped actually twice. So they sent him for 15 years in another prison far away. And I went to see him. I'm like, yo, bruh, this is the middle of nowhere. And it crossed my mind. It's like, I don't want this. And I remember telling the guys sitting in the corner, I said, guys, I'm going to move out of here. I'm going to buy me a city golf. I'm going to live in the suburbs.
Yeah.
This life is not for me.
So,
and I did.
So number one, how did you do it? What did you do exactly? And number two, give me a timeline then of when the first kid came and how your situation was then.
Okay. I think because my father was an entrepreneur all my life, I know him as a person who worked for himself. And unknowingly in my head, I had inherited his survival skills, So I got up every morning and I would go and look for work. These guys used to laugh at me. I'll get up and I'll go. And I didn't have money for a train, so I had to leave at 5 a.m. to get to the train station before Abokaki and those guys arrive. Catch a train, go to the factories, go knock on doors. Eventually, I did get a cleaning job to clean machines, and I'll come home looking like a mechanic because the machines were full of grease. Even those guys still laughed at me when I told them, guys, I got a job. They look at me and said, look how you look. I'm like, you know what? I don't care about you. I got a job now. It didn't pay much, but now I can contribute to my life and contribute in the household, And I carried on pushing. I'm not going to stop here because this is just a start. And I used to look at newspapers as well. This one day I came across an ad that says, you can study computer programming for free. I'm like, hell no, I'm going. I knew nothing about computer programming, but when I had a day off, I dressed up and I went to this place And I had the ad in my hand and I showed them. I said, "This, you said it's for free." And they said, "Yeah, but there's a condition." I'm like, it's not on the ad. There's no conditions here. There is a condition. You have to write a test. And if you pass the test with certain marks, then you're in for free. So I said, cool, bring on the test. And right there, and this guy came back after I wrote the test and said, "Dude, I've never seen marks like this. So well done, you in." And I'm like, just like that, I was studying computer programming for free.
And still working.
And still working. Then the contract, they ended. So then, I had to now find a way of supporting me myself again. I bought a clipper to cut people's hair. So during my weekend and after school, then I'll sit at home and I'll cut people's hair and charge 10 rand for a haircut.
Okay. Nice.
So I made money like that. So I could travel and I get to college. And fortunately, I passed. And then those guys, the reason they said it's for free, they knew that after I'm done, they're gonna place me in a work or in a corporate company. Then the company pays them for the placement. That's how they made their money. So they placed me, and that was like basically 98. They placed me in this company. So I worked at MWeb. They had a contract at MWeb. I was doing IT support there. And I was still staying by my aunt, relations had got been better because now I've got money.
I know. Now you're bringing something now.
Yeah, and so now I'm this child. Ooh, my child. But then she got greedy. But before she got greedy and kicked me out because I refused to give her more money.
Oh.
I would buy groceries, right, for the house, and I'll give her money as well, just for her to spend whatever she wants to do. And then she will want more because she gambled. She'll take the money and she'll go and play at the casino and gamble and lose or win, whatever. So when she loses, she's grumpy and now she wants more money. And one time the landlines, the telecom landline, she misuses. She had a 700 rand bill and she wanted me to pay. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I've never used your phone line and I'm not paying 700 rand for a bill that I've never used the phone line for. No ways. Then she got upset and she said, leave my house. Leave my house, just like that. So I said, okay, cool. I'm going to work now. It's in the morning. Because she's telling me that in the morning. And the thing is, my bag was always packed because I didn't have a wardrobe. Yeah, I didn't have a wardrobe or anything to put my clothes in. So they were always in the bag, always ready to go. And I said, cool. When I come back from work, and then I'll shift. And that's what happened. I left. I came back from work, grabbed my bag, and I met her as well. As I was leaving, I bumped into her. And I stopped. I said, Auntie, thank you for all that you've done for me. I appreciate it for giving me a roof when you could give me a roof. And I appreciate it. So I want to live in peace. And she looked at me. It's like, where are you going? I'm like, no, I'll find a place. No, I didn't mean leave now. I said, no, it's cool. It's all right. And I didn't know where I was going. But I left. I walked around, asked around some people around, and they showed me, there's an auntie down the road there who's got two shacks at the backyard. And then I went and I stayed there in that. And then during that time, that's when my girlfriend then conceived Lerato. That was like in 1999.
Okay.
Then that's when it's like, okay, you are what? Pregnant. Okay. Then I scratched my head. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, cool. Okay. One thing. Okay, I'm working. Okay, that's good. That's good. At least I can support you. I can support the child. So that sort of made me more determined. But I thought to myself, okay, I need now to sort of up my game. And then I decided I'm gonna study more between work and after hours, so I can, get a better job to what I was doing then. So I went on and I did all the courses at Microsoft and all of that, just to make myself more marketable so I can earn more money, because now it's not just myself,
And this was even before the internet, right? So you physically had to go.
It was just starting there.
Yeah.
Yes. Internet was starting.
I'm saying what it is now.
Yeah.
Like the reason I say that is like in the hopes that young people are listening, that in spite of all the challenges, right? you can still get up. You can, like you're saying, you can walk around and literally go ask door to door, right?
Yes.
You can open the newspaper. And nowadays with the internet, like you can literally sit on the internet, email people, WhatsApp people, DM people on social, like you can literally harass people for any job or anything that can improve your life.
Yeah. You have to take the rejection, right? And forget about it. It's gonna happen. People will reject you and say no. That's all they can do. They're not gonna harm you. Okay, you say fine. This one said no. Next, then you move on. Next. If you don't do that, you're gonna stop. Not know, maybe the next guy will have been one to employ you. That's the thing. I had to push. And now at that point, when knowing that the baby is coming, I'm like, okay, what do I know about raising a baby? I mean, we were a huge bunch at home, and there was always other people at home, but not really. There was a time when there was a baby where I could actually look and say, okay, what are they doing?
Yeah.
So I practically went to CNA. And I went to the magazines and I looked
when
at
I,
the magazines.
when I saw your thing, you said, I was like, yo, this guy, CNA want magazines. But what did you learn? Did you actually pick up something from these magazines?
I read anything I could read. I would read how to do the bottle for the baby, how to change diapers, what type of food, and I will read what sort of illnesses that might come up. What vaccinations must the babies, go through the stages? At what stage must they be vaccinated? I just had to read and everything on babies,
and at that
I had to
time,
find.
your partner, you guys, are you doing the same thing? It's like, are you approaching it the same way, or you just going your way? And
No. I know we were actually, when the pregnancy happened, we were breaking up. And then boom, okay, pregnancy, okay, said cool. But I'm not gonna stay away from you. I'm gonna stay here. I will be with you through the process. But we knew at that point that we were actually going separate ways. But we stayed, and then we'll look at the books together, at the magazines together. We'll look at things, and as stages went by, we were preparing. We'd look at, okay, at this trimester now, what's supposed to happen? What do you need to do? How are you feeling? We went through that together. I made sure that she's looked after. I made sure that she knows what she needs to be doing, and I will share the information, and she was all right with that.
Dude, you said you're not prepared. You were prepared. Like that, like some of us. Let me tell you, the problem with us. All these things that you mentioned, I didn't even know how many weeks she was pregnant. I had no idea what trimesters were. We sort of like, when you're with someone, right, who's very capable, more than you sort of like leave it to her, which is what I did. So when you're telling me this stuff that you read all of these, that's more than I did. Way more.
Look, the way I see it, I said I wasn't prepared because I wasn't prepared for the pregnant when it happened. I wasn't, it was not like a planned thing. And then when it happened, I said, okay, I've got 9 months, but in the 9 months, something is happening. I need to know. I'm just that kind of a person. I need to know. I like to know. And mostly for safety's sake. There's been so many people who have pregnancies that don't make it the full term. And so I didn't want to have such surprises. So I wanted to make sure that everything is ready as best as we can. Yeah. If the baby doesn't make it, it's not because of lack of trying, of lack of effort from our side. So that's why I said 9 months, boom, sorted. Hence now with Dominic, it's a different story. There was no 9 months.
No, 100%. We're coming to that just now. So I wanna get into fatherhood, exactly, into your father. You gave me so much information about your dad, which is dope, because mostly guys just write like 1-2 line. No, me and my dad didn't get along. My dad was never there. I'm like, but that can't be the whole relationship, right? Anyway, you say that your father was very strict, right? Authoritarian type. But yes, what I noticed that he was present. He was in the house. He was still a father. It's just his way of being a father was that way.
Yes. No. I can say I'm fortunate in that regard. Both parents were there all the time. And one of the best things they did for us was to show us how to love each other, as husband and wife. Not a single time I remember them arguing. I'm not saying they never did, but we never saw it. If they did it in their own bedroom, in hiding where we never saw. But when they were in front of us, they were united front.
Yeah.
You know, he would hug her and kiss. You know how it is in the rural areas. Men abaye plant.
Yeah.
And women in the pot. I remember this one funeral of his brother, my father's brother. So it was after the funeral. And then my father walked up, called my mother, and they met each other halfway in the yard. It's like in full view of everyone. They stood there and a full-on romantic kiss.
Oh, right? Really?
You know, yes. And everyone was like, what are they doing? You know, this is a private thing. And my father said, it's my wife. I can kiss her anytime I want to. Got an issue? Come talk to me. I'm like, yo, okay. So I still spoke to him about and dad and about. I said, no, I just missed my wife. So why can't I show affection to my wife? There's nothing wrong. That's something you mustn't hide. So I learned that.
So you saw
growing up, yes.
You saw different dimensions of your father, which is very interesting. Like I don't get that a lot. Yes. Like most guys will tell me just like one side to their father, right? Whatever it is, side that they remember. But you're saying, obviously there's hindsight also, right? Because I'm sure at that time if you're 15, you're seeing what you're seeing. When you're a bit older and you've spoken to the guy, now you have a different relationship now, right?
Yes. It changed along the way.
But when you were younger, his approach to parenting is his primary approach.
Yes.
How did that impact you guys, you and your siblings? And when you were together, like what did you talk about in relation to your father?
Mostly it was like, okay, whatever you do, don't get into trouble to a point that you get sent to him, because it's like, we can get into trouble as long as my mother is the one's gonna handle the crime and the case.
Because there's the guillotine there. It's over.
If you go to my father, no, you won't walk for days if that man gives you a hiding. You see. So we were all sort of afraid of him. However, I must still add, I think when I got to my teens, starting from my early teens, I started to speak my mind. It used to get me into a lot of trouble. I still, even today, feel that I was right, because I was not like being disrespectful, but I would ask questions to get clarity. But because he was the authority figure, what he says goes. He sort of saw the questions as challenging him. You see, for example, there was a time when we all got called into a family meeting to discuss a song. That song, Let's Talk About Sex, Baby. Let's talk about that song. And my father's like, whose cassette is this? It's playing. I said, no, it's my cassette. Everybody just sat there. My siblings sat there with their heads, hanging, looking down on the floor. I'm sitting up and I said, no, it's my cassette, it's my song. And okay, why are you playing this song? Destroy the cassette. I said, no, I'm not. I'm not going to destroy my cassette. I've collected a lot of songs there, but what's wrong with the song? The song says, let's talk about sex, And his interpretation was the song is encouraging young people to go and have sex. I said, no, that's incorrect. You are wrong. Oh, yes, that mistake.
Yo.
That got me a punishment of 3 months. I kid you not. But to me, the song said, let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. And so why don't you want to discuss it? Let's talk about sex. Now, remember, our old people didn't really like that. They didn't like discussing sex, period. So the way he saw it, it was like, oh, you are challenging me now in front of your sibling. So you are the rebel. You've got the devil in you. I'll show you. I got a nice hiding.
Yeah, and they weren't equipped either, right?
No, I don't think they were.
Emotionally equipped. And just dealing with that side of things, they didn't, because they themselves, who would have taught them, right? Because their fathers were trying to survive in a very, very tough environment, and their fathers before that, so they weren't equipped for that.
No, they weren't. They were not equipped. Look, also the other part that now that I'm older, I wish my parents or my father could have discussed with me, was the story of girlfriends and children. And I only found out when I was older, when I got married, that he had another child outside marriage. He never mentioned that until I got married. The other part that he never discussed, we were a lot of siblings, right? And about most of us passed away, but he never talked about it, period. Because I can only imagine if you have 9 kids and 5 of them pass away, it has to affect you somehow.
Yeah. So he's never mentioned any of them in any shape or form, even on birthdays, nothing.
Wow. Nothing. I wanted some point, before he passed away, I wanted to go to my sister's graves now, because I was very young when the first 2 passed away. First 3 passed. I was very, very young. I can't remember much. So I wanted to go to their graves and see where they're at, and just see if that we can do a headstone type of thing. He was not interested. Also, now that also had to do with the religion. The way they understood religion was like, you bury this person, done, dusted, leave that. Don't be going to the grave and don't do this. Now, to them, it seemed like now you're going to pray. I said, no, I just want to see where my sisters are buried and, make sure the place looks nice and proper with the headstone as well marked. I got no information. So It's like, what do you want to do that? But now that I'm thinking about it, maybe to him, it brought some painful memories. So for him to deal with that was just to shut it out completely, because like you said, again, they were not equipped on how to deal with certain things. So here I am now, but I know that I can go to a therapist, which I have done, several times when I needed to. I've gone and spoken to therapists. So I know we got tools now to deal with things.
Okay.
So I wish they had known that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask is like, have you found yourself with similar traits, particularly with trauma, of you yourself then shutting down? And then is that what ultimately led to therapy, or what did actually lead to it?
First time, it was mostly work. I worked for this huge insurance company. It was very stressful. Mostly because I was not getting anywhere forward. You see other people getting promotions and all of that, and I was not about to kiss anybody's ass to get a promotion. And you would see people doing it literally. People will bring gifts and buy lunches for the bosses, to get nice marks when they do their performance appraisal. I was not gonna do that. I said, look, I'm doing my work and I'm good at what I do. For a boss to tell me literally in my face that, listen, you've reached your ceiling, but your ceiling is a glass ceiling. You can see where you want to go, but while you're still here, you're going nowhere. While I'm still in charge, you're going nowhere.
Really?
So that got me frustrated. I went to the HR person and I told them, and the HR person wouldn't give a damn. They didn't care. So that really got me in a space where every time I went to work, I felt sick. So I ended up having to go to the therapist. Just let's talk about it. Help me understand situations, So I spoke to the therapist, and that was the first time I went to a therapist. And then after that, there's more of emotional things, because my older brother, who I was the keeper, he became very sickly late in his life. So I was in and out of hospital all the time, and most of the time I had to take care of him. And that affects a person emotionally. So I had to go and speak to someone. I said, listen, I need to speak to someone, just how to handle all of this. When you see your sibling being emotional, and to think how he treated me when I was younger, I should have left him there from how he treated me at some points, But I'm not like that. I'm not that kind of a person. So I took care of him, and even his last days, I used to go see him at the hospital, make sure he's cleaned up, he's all right. I used to see him like every day. I think before he passed on, he was in hospital for 3 months straight, and I used to go see him twice a day, every day. So that was, go see him, to encourage him. I went to encourage him.
Yeah, but why?
He was like, I don't know. I don't know the right answer though, but to me, when I used to go see him, I would talk to him about everything else about him. I remember one time he asked me, he said, like, why, when you come here, you don't ask me how I am. You don't discuss my illness and whatever. You just talk about everything else. And I said, listen, for the fact you are here, you're not going home, you're not well. I can see the machines next to you. I can read them. So what's the point of me discussing that? Because then I'm making you more miserable. So the hour that I have with you, let's have some fun. Let's have some laughter. Because what I realized that when he's laughing and he forgets the situation he was in, and his body would follow, his mind would follow how he felt at that point. Because literally you could see in the machines, he will look better. His blood pressure will go down. It will look almost normal. Because he will be happy. He will be chatting about soccer and about cricket, about this and that. He'll be in a happy space. And that's when he said, you know what, you are right. Every time you leave here for the first 2-3 hours, I'm in a nice space. I actually get up from my bed and I talk to people here and there and there. I forget about this whole hospital depression thing. And I don't like to see people suffer, actually. It's just in me. It's one of the reasons that one of the reasons that I actually did first aid to the level that I did, so I can help people and assist people when they need to be. But also he was just my brother and I've lost so many ahead of him. So I was hoping that maybe, he would pull through. Because I had times where I wished, my older sisters were alive and I think, would I have struggled so much in life if they were still alive? What if, those kind of things. So that's why I spent time with him. I didn't want to live with regret afterwards and say, hey, I wish I'd done this with my brother. I wish I'd spoken to him more.
Talking about the need to help, I'm going to move now to adoption. And so I'm going to start with some of the work that you do. So just give me just brief background into what kind of work you and your wife Jess do in the community and where do you do it? And so you've answered the why, which was going to be my next question. Yeah.
We collect clothes, used clothing. Almost everyone has clothes they don't wear anymore. They just let them lie. So we collect those clothing and then we find people who need. So we don't have a stationary place. For example, now there's been a fire in a township, So if we have clothes now, we'll go and find an organization that works there and give those clothes to distribute to those people. But in between, there's always a family somewhere that needs something. We get food, like dry goods, like 10 kgs of maize meal and samp and all of that stuff. We get them from donors and then we distribute them. So there's always people calling us, listen, I saw a family somewhere struggling, so we make a plan. We don't have one place where we do a soup kitchen or that kind. No, we distribute the dry goods so that people can actually help each other. Sometimes I do it at work. I did it in, January tends to be a long month. So I saw that people at work were kind of struggling. So I brought some dry goods in there so they could share amongst themselves. So, and we've been doing that for over 20 years. Actually, we started doing that even before we were married. I used to do it on my own. I didn't know she was doing it. And then when we got married, it's like, oh, you're doing this? Oh, yeah, okay, let's combine the efforts. And we do it. We carry on doing it. And we're still going to carry on doing it wherever we can help. And then there's also the emotional part of things that we do as well. Okay. The training, we don't call it team building. It's similar to that, but we focus on the individuals and families, but our focus is on relationships. We believe that if you can fix relationships between two people, could be a parent and a child or friends, then that relationship gets better. And then that relationship can actually influence a wider community. It can influence a family. And if a family is in a good space, then it goes outside to a wider community. And that way, you can have a better society.
And these are townships in and around Cape Town, right? Where we obviously, from being this side, when you get reports, it almost seems like you can't even walk into these places. And yet here you are, you and your wife. No, that should be commended.
Sometimes it's dangerous.
Sometimes you can't.
We've had times when we found ourselves in the middle of a gunfight between gangs, and we had to duck, and bullets were flying above, and it's like, okay, wait, let's get out of here. So, but there's people there that need help, and someone has to go in.
Yeah, no, kudos to you guys, man. Now,
thank you.
The second kid, Dominic, was adopted. Now, with everything that you've seen and experienced, tell me why this one was the one.
She happened to us. We didn't choose, I'm saying she happened to us. Practically the whole situation chose us. What happened was that we spoke to other people who had adopted kids, and they tell us the process and how long it takes and all of that. So we decided, okay, Jeff, 2022, 2023 would be a good year for us to adopt. So we're in 2021 now. So let's start the process. Let's go and investigate. Let's ask around. So we asked around, and then someone pointed us to this agency. So we called the agency, we talked to them, we want to know the process. So I said, cool. Send us documents. I said, start with this. Here's the documents. Then we filled in all these documents. I'm telling you, it's like 30, 40 pages that we had to complete. That just describes us and everything about us. Then we send the stuff back. And then when they send us photos, this is like the first week of us talking to them. And then they send us the photos and video clips and said, listen, we have this child. When we said, I'm like, wait. On the form, but we said we wanted a baby, for the bonding. The child must bond with us from the beginning. But now this child is a year and 6 months or something. But they said, no, can you come over and see the child before you make up your minds and all of that? Okay, fine. On the Saturday, we went over, and then there was Dominic sitting there, and they explained the situation. That it's an urgent thing because now the child is almost 2 and people don't want older children. They don't want to take older children because of the same, people think, because the child now has grown up somewhere else, they might not bond with them. And it's urgent. It needs to happen like urgently. So here's the child, So they said, before you decide, we'll give you guys some time with the child. So they left us with Dominic for 2 hours. All right. Okay. So we went out with Dominic, and she lashed on to my wife like immediately.
That's how they got you, man. That's how they got you.
So you
should have said no to that 2 hours. Don't do this. You guys you're coming after our hearts here.
No, they got me with the photos already. And when I looked at the photo, I'm like, why? You've seen a smile. I'm like,
yeah.
And I kept looking at the photo. I'm like, why do I keep looking at this photo? And, and then, but she shied away from me. She wouldn't let me touch it. So I said, suppose not a problem. And then when we had to drop her off, that was the only time she allowed me to touch her. Then I had to put her in the car of the lady of the agency. She cried like nobody's business. She didn't want us to leave. And that lady was like, what? Take it with you right now. I'm like, whoa. Wait. It's a Saturday. We need to put things into place. Then she said, okay, come on Friday next week. And this is done. She's going to go on Monday. She's going to go to the magistrate, start the process and tell the magistrate, look, I'm placing this child with this couple. And she said, this is not negotiable. You've got 5 days to prepare. And that was that. So we had to go back home.
When you said you were not prepared, you said Jess was in. She was good to go. You were like...
No, Jess had already told them at work, even before we went to see the child, that listen here, guys, I'm going to take paternity leave anytime soon. So get ready. She had told them before even we got to see the child, guys, I'm going to take maternity leave and I'm taking my full 4 months. And this is happening. She already briefed everyone at work. So they were expecting this, and when we got there, she was like sorted, And the only reason she agreed that we don't take the child on Saturday, she still had to go to work first and then put in a leave. So she couldn't just stop work like that. So she'd go into work, tell them, guys, Friday is my last day and I'm fetching my baby. I'm going, I'm sorted. I'm like, dude, I must first sort out the house. The house is just for 2 of us. Now I need to sort out the house. I need to assemble the bed. I need to do all sorts of things in my head. And in my head also, you have 9 months to prepare for the child to be physically there. I got 5 days.
Yeah, no. Hey,
I got 5 days.
For guys, even 9 months, some of us just never quite get there. Now imagine 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I was like, I got 5 days. So anyway, I had to quickly, get myself in the mood. And we went there and we picked her up. So that's why it took 2 weeks for us.
Yeah, but and to be clear, right? The process, like you said, it could take up to like 4 months, right? Because obviously there's a
longer.
even longer? There's paperwork, there's checks and balances.
It's much longer, actually.
Yeah.
It's much longer because the 4 months is the last part. Because once, like now, the child is with us, then the last part of the process is to find biological parents or family and inform them that your child is now in the process of being adopted formally. Do you oppose? Then they are given 4 months to say yes or no, if they are opposing this process, you are opposing. So they had 4 months. So that 4 months becomes the last part. So you must add the other months of admin that must happen usually before that, because you must send your information to SEPS to check if you're not in the database of child molesters. Social services do their part. Child protection must check you up and all those things. There's a lot of things that must happen in between.
Yeah.
So, but that 4 months
she's from a very difficult background, right?
Yes. She had been moved a lot of times already. I mean, for her age to be moved 4 or 5 times from that home to that home, and you could tell, when you give her food, she would eat like something is chasing her. Almost like we don't really know the circumstances, but you could see that she was worried that there won't be food anymore.
Yeah.
She will eat and stuff her face and chase after food. She will. Any crumb that falls, she will jump for it to make sure she doesn't lose any portion of that food, until she got to a point she realized, listen, okay, now.
So what has been the overall impact of obviously adopting someone, bringing them into the family, particularly on you guys as a couple? Has the dynamic changed?
The biggest thing is couple time. Spending time together. We've always been together. There's always been no one in the house for a long time, and now suddenly there's someone else in the house. And like I said, it took 2 weeks. So I'm sort of a planner person, and my wife is, let's do this right now. Spontaneous type of thing.
That sounds very familiar. It's like my house.
So, I was like, okay, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do couple time? And now we need to sort of rearrange our lives, because at some time we need to spend time, alone. And Dominic, like I said, she's busy. She's energetic, and if you don't watch her, you hear stuff breaking. If you don't watch her, your books are in pieces. She loves the sound of paper. So one of us has to be looking at it almost all the time, to make sure that she's okay, to make sure she doesn't burn down the house, unintentionally, of course. But it has had an effect on us. Also, in the initial stages when she came to live with us, she just wanted to be with Jessica. She wanted Jessica to put her to bed. She wouldn't let me do that. And Jessica must wash her, must bath her. She would play with me. She'll let me feed her, but the intimate parts of that, and no. If she wakes up at night, Jessica must go sleep next to her, make sure she's comforted, and she goes back to bed. So that has had an effect, because I find that sometimes she wants to sleep with, feeling. If Jessica moves, she will feel it and get up and wake up. So there were times that Jessica ended up sleeping in the other bed, and I'm sleeping alone in the other bed. So that had now sort of that physical impact on it. But, we spoke about it. We're like, okay, we have to find ways to adjust and deal with this, because I was like, I don't like this. It's a bit cold here now next to me. But but yeah, we kind of have to adjust. That's been the biggest impact, and obviously financially as well. We had to do a lot of adjustments, especially now she goes to daycare as well. So there's a lot of financial adjustments that we had to make. Again, that's making us talk to, we talk to each other all the time, During the day, we make sure we communicate. When she's at work, I'm at work. But now we have to sort of go to the next level. With Dominic, we have to prepare a week ahead, each day. Okay, what's she wearing tomorrow? What are we doing this? When are we? The communication has had to go on, and we have to be on par, even with what she has to learn. We have to be on par with that. Okay. If she's teaching a certain word for the day, I must know so that I can, be of something. If she's teaching a certain behavior, then I must also be on that same level. For example, she knows now when she's done eating, she takes a plate and a spoon to the kitchen, put in the sink. So both of us had to insist that she does that. We're teaching a certain level of responsibility. So we don't even have to tell her now about that. She gets up, she picks up. If I'm sitting and I'm done eating, she will come and grab my plate and take it to the sink. So we had to align ourselves more than we were before in terms of the behavior. And now we also have to watch how we talk to each other, the things that we say, because she watches. Sometimes you just hear her repeat a word. I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, no,
where do you hear that?
They pick up everything.
Where do you hear that word?
Yeah.
So we had to quickly make a plan and decide how are we gonna do this. And we are doing it as we go along as well. To see, we watch her behavior. I think you and your wife, in one of your podcasts, you discussed how we have to sometimes watch them and follow them so as to guide them, because the kids they show us their characters, so we have to fall in line with that character, and make sure that we help them along. So that is one thing we do as well. We sit and we just watch her sometimes, watch her how she plays, to be in line with her, because she's a different person to what Lerato was. So we can apply the same situations, the same rules that Lerato was to Dominic.
Yeah.
And obviously then there is some also impact from where she's been before in her life. So we have to be mindful of those situations and try to understand why sometimes she lashes out, she gets angry. She can get very angry sometimes. So we try to say, okay, what happens that makes it to tick off like that? To understand, because all we know is that, she didn't have an easy life in the first year of life. That's why the government had to take her away from the biological parents, because life was rough. So it's been changes in our life because of that. But as a couple, though, we're still all right. We're still all right. And even though someone sleeps on the other side.
I was over strong, Chief. You'll be fine, man. I was over strong.
No. The comforting part of that is that now Dominic is switched sides. I'm the now.
You're the main person now.
I'm the main person now. If she wakes up in the morning, she looks around, where's Daddy?
Yeah.
And she's going to pick it. She don't know, leave me, don't touch me. She screams, no, Daddy must come fetch me from my bed. Daddy must take me there. Daddy must do this. Daddy must make my food. Don't bring me food. Daddy must bring me food. So I'm the toast of the town, man. I'm the hero.
You know what's my worst line in this house? Daddy, come wipe my bum. I'm done now.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. Like, dude.
Yeah.
Come on, bruh. But those are the little things that, make it worthwhile on being a dad. And you guys are out here saving the world, man. You're out here adopting kids, giving out food, stuffs, first aid. You're on call when people need help. You are there. You're that guy.
No, I used to be, but
you used to be that guy.
Yeah, but look, this is the thing about first aid. It doesn't wait for you to be on call. Things happen on the road. Things happen in the malls.
Yeah, listen, things happen when you are sort of like ready for them, and in the same breath, you, in a way, I believe in energies. Like you invite certain things. You understand?
Yeah.
These things, they don't happen to me because my energy, I collapse. I just keep it moving, keep my head down, and just
mind your own business.
Mind my own business. Yeah. Unless, of course, if help is needed. No, but what you said about first aid is important. I did it a while ago, and especially with kids, it's actually critical that we all refresh and know at least just the basics.
Just the basics, man. Because if we had time, I'll tell you a story. What really got me to do first aid and learn to swim. It was a very sad story.
No, we're coming to that. I feel like with you, there's lots of things. Yeah, when I listen back to this thing that I'm going to need, and then we're going to pick themes and episodes and then bring you back. So The last part now is obviously tips, tools, and tricks that you've learned so far as a father, but more importantly, as a human being. So you've got 5 that you wrote down so eloquently. I'd like you to read them out, and that's how we're going to close off this episode.
All right. The first one is decide on what you want to teach your child and start early. Use words and actions intentionally because children mimic what we do and say. Basically, what I mean with those things, I'm talking about words like no, wait, please, thank you. We do actions like washing hands. So I would say it now with Dominic, if I open the tap and I'm washing, she runs to come and wash her hands. I don't have to tell her about that. Cleaning a mess. If she messes up, I mean, she's only 2, but she will go fetch a broom. Even though she's gonna, mess everything even more, but she knows that you must clean. There's a mess,
Good.
We're teaching her to count, but we're using songs. But for her now, it's just a game. She's not probably understanding that she's actually counting, but she can actually now sing and go 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10. But she will do it in a song. So that's why I said you have to be intentional and do that. And then the next point, falling into that one, the second one will be you have to be consistent in your actions and mostly your decisions. Children learn with repetition. That's why they always repeat things. So on top of your actions, you must then be consistent with your actions. I'll give an example with Lerato. When she was younger, I had to teach her about payday, about when I can have money and not have money. Because we go to shop, she once I said, no, wait, you must wait for payday. She's like, payday? I said, yeah, payday is when I have money. Then, okay, payday. Almost every day she asks me, is today payday? So no, it's not payday yet. When you get to payday now, I must, stick to my word and say, my baby, it's payday. She's like, yeah, I got money. Daddy's got money. It's payday. Right. We go to the shop. We go to McDonald's, wherever she enjoys herself. She buys whatever toy she wanted. And, and then as she grew up, I became intentional with the same thing. I will do it all the time. So I wouldn't just like in the middle of the month when she wants something and suddenly say, okay, it's fine, you can have it. I wanted her to get used to that cycle. Yeah. Not sometimes I'll be able to, but I wanted you to be used to the cycle. So I'm consistent with my actions, So that's how I taught about payday and about money and about savings. Slowly, I would build on things to get to that point.
Okay.
So I find that that's quite important for us to be consistent.
I'm taking that one.
Yeah, and then I teach you also about expensive and not expensive. A simple thing I did was to show her the numbers. I said, look, there's 3 numbers before the dot. If it's got 3 numbers before the dot, it's expensive. We don't buy it. So anything with 2 numbers before the dot, you can have it. Yeah. She didn't understand the numbers, but she would look and say 1, 2, 3. It's expensive, Daddy. We're not buying this one. I said, yes. They say 1, 2. Yes, Daddy, we're buying this one. But also on payday.
I'm taking that one too.
She learned that way. So we never had issues in the shop, because of the learning at a very younger age. I never had her say, Daddy, I want this toy. She understood because it was a constant thing and it happened all the time.
Sure.
The third one, let's be encouraging to your child to instill self-confidence. When a child has self-confidence, they will be less susceptible to bullying and have more confidence in their decision-making. So we can do things like applause. You applaud, you acknowledge the child. Again, I use Dominique as an example. She puts the balls in the sink and she'll clap. We also clap her hands. It's an achievement for her. To us, it's just a daily job, but to her, you encourage the children. And as when she gets older, when we go to the shop, I'm gonna allow her to choose her own toys. Let her decide and let her choose what she wants, not what I think she wants. I can guide her in terms of money-wise, but she must choose her, and then I must applaud her for that. Because when kids don't have self-confidence, they easily get bullied. That's what, from my perspective. They easily get challenged. They easily lose whatever they wanted to do in life because other people told them otherwise. You see when people are even older, they make a decision and someone comes there and says, no, that's rubbish. And then you see a person fold and they shrink because they've lost their self-confidence. And they were very sure when that person didn't show up first. They were sure about their decision, but they don't have self-confidence. And then they just cry all the time. I mean, I've seen old people there where I work cry every day because people are bullying them. People are just making them feel little because they lack self-confidence. So the more we keep encouraging from a younger age, they get used to the fact that, look, I can make decisions and then I am okay with my decisions. That is the third part. Fourth one, if you have more than one child, you treat each child as individual. Children are different to each other, so treat them as such. I mean, this requires the parents to pay attention to each child. And I believe this part has come up on your other podcast with the other guys, that children are different. So we have to pay attention to that. We can't just use the same blanket. That's the thing to me that also that we as the newer generation or even the generation coming after us, they need to pay attention to that because our parents in their old age, they treated us the same.
Yeah, it was all the same. Yeah,
it was all the same. So that's the thing that I would like to see the younger parents or men who are still thinking they're gonna have families. They must think about that and something they need to instill in their lives. And the last part is life skills are important. I mentioned swimming as one of those things, and first aid is also one other thing. So it's just to save your life. I always feel sad when someone is drowned and they were in the pool because they just couldn't swim. People go to the beach and they just drown because they don't understand what's happening to the water. When you get a backwash and the water's going, they don't know that. So swimming was quite important. I mean, I lost a neighbor at a very young age. It was quite sad because no one could swim. And the guy drowned in front of the clinic. The nurses couldn't swim. The ambulance people couldn't swim. No one could swim. The guy at age 11 drowned. And back then there were no cell phones. Somehow someone got hold of his uncle 45 minutes later. He arrived on scene. He dived in within 30 seconds, he had pulled him out. But it was 45 minutes too late. And I saw that with my own eyes, and I thought to myself, yo. I mean, you would think, in front of the clinic, there's an ambulance, there are nurses, someone would go in and swim, but no one whatsoever. And, we lost a life that, that could have been saved if just one person in that environment knew how to swim. So I made the point that I'm going to swim. And then when Lerato was 4 years old, I took her to swimming classes. She can swim. Dominic is already starting to swim. It's an important thing. It's an important skill. Like you said, even with first aid, it's important for parents to have first aid.
Have you heard our episode on water safety and swimming? You haven't mentioned it.
I listened to it.
Oh,
I did.
Good.
I did. You know what? You know what part helped me with that episode? When Dominic came to us, she was not 2 years yet. She was 1 year, 7 months. And the first time we went to a pool, she just jumped in and she just like nobody's business.
Yeah,
she was just pedaling. And now she's 2. She's freaked out. I went to swim with her now in March when it was hot here in Cape Town. She was freaked out. She just wanted me to hold her all the time. I'm like, what the hell is going on? You were swimming just now. And then in your podcast, the lady explained what happens at age 2. I was like, that makes sense. Because when she mentioned that, says the kids are fine, then they hit 2 years, then they get freaked out by anything and everything. And then when they get to 3 years, then they become fine again. So I was like, thank you, Tsepo. Thank you for you and your expert.
Yeah.
Because now that explained why she's freaked out by water. And before she turned 2, she was fine. She was just pedaling away. Eyes open under the water. Patient. So now it's all right. I said, okay, we'll ride this year out. And then when you're 3, then we'll go swim again. And, you should be fine by then, according to the expert.
No, it should be good. Cool. And thank you so much, man, for streaming and listening to this podcast. There's a lot to take from this episode, right? And 5 things that Zuko said that I just want to remind you of. Decide on what you want to teach your child. Be consistent, be encouraging, and instill self-confidence. Treat each child as an individual, and life skills such as swimming are super, super important. If you're not sure, listen to episode 9 on water safety. Thank you so much. Check us out on social media at The Timers Playbook. Until next week, sharp. Proudly produced by 1730 Media.